When talking health, fitness, and sports, there are many variables that contribute to our success. We know that one of these major variables is being mobile. Having proper mobility for our body is key to moving efficiently, whether it be for our day to day tasks or for sporting activities. It is important that we have this proper range of motion, but unfortunately, many people neglect focusing on this physical attribute. And for that, movement screens exist. To determine if we are one of these people that lacks general mobility, we usually use the functional movement screen. This is, like I said, the most general tool we use to assess mobility as well as stability, but there are more sport specific screens that also exist. The functional movement screen is very simple to perform. You can do it on your own, you can do it with an assistance of a partner to make sure you're being honest about how you grade yourself. So, as you can see, there's 7 movement assessments that they put you through. There are only 4 scores you can get per movement: 0, 1, 2, 3. So a 0 would be the lowest score. That's if you have any kind of pain. So regardless of how well you do in the movement, if you feel any kind of pain, you're automatically going to get a 0. So like I said, you could perform the movement perfect. But if you feel that pain, you're going to get the 0. So 1 would be if you were just unable to adequately perform the move at all. 2 would be if you could perform it, but you needed some help, if you needed a little assistance to do it, or maybe you kind of did it in a manner that wasn't 100% correct, but it was passable. And then the final score is 3, where you adequately perform the range of motion required from the movement without any assistance and without any struggle in performing these actions. The 7 movements of the functional movement screen are very easy for anybody to instruct somebody through. They're very basic movement patterns that we see throughout our day-to-day lives. Deep squat would be the first, hurdle step the second, inline lunge third, shoulder mobility testing fourth, active straight leg raise fifth, and then you do a trunk stability push-up and rotary stability at the end. Usually we instruct to go in this order. It goes from standing mobility tests to tests that we perform on the ground. When done with all the tests, you add all the scores up, and 14 would be the baseline. Under 14 is failing, and then 14 and over would be passing. When discussing the functional movement screen, it's important to assess the validity of the process. When looking through some research, we see that an article from Bonazza et al. Confirms that the functional movement screen is a good predictor for injury risk. This study found that participants that scored 14 or lower were at almost a 3 times higher risk of injury. Another study from Vecchio et al. Found that within Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, lower scores in the functional movement screen were associated with higher risks of injury. While the functional movement screen works well with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the different demands of other sports require different types of screening. We know that many non-contact injuries come from a direct result of cutting, planting on a foot, and changing direction. We see this in sports such as soccer, basketball, football, where very explosive actions and change of directions have been linked to very serious injuries such as ACL tears and sprains. It is clear from just examining the movement patterns from the functional movement screen that this test is not adequate to test for potential damage from participating in these more explosive, dynamic, and athletic sports. It is up to the coach or trainer to understand the specific demands of these sports and to test adequately movement patterns for the athlete and the sport that they're participating in.